In just its second year in India, Citroen is entering the mass market space with a new body style. A body style that no other European car maker has dabbled with in the last 7 years. Yes, Citroen has readied an all-new hatchback for India and we're in Goa to drive it for the first time. Welcome to News 9 Live's first drive impressions of the all-new Citroen C3. After kick-starting its India innings with the imperious but expensive C5 Aircross, Citroen is now launching the C3, which it calls a hatchback with a twist. It may not feel like it, but the C3 is only the first brand new mass market hatch from a European car maker since the Renault Kwid came out all the way back in 2015. It's also the first car to emerge from Citroen's India-centric C-Cubed program, with at least 3 more models due from this project. The C3 is important, not just because it will guarantee crucial sales volume, but also because it will play a key role in shaping the image of Citroen in the minds of the masses. Citroen's honesty about what the C3 actually is refreshing. In an age when most manufacturers jump at the first opportunity to call any crossover-style vehicle an SUV, Citroen is clear about the C3 being a hatchback. However, it's clear to see that Citroen is taking aim at 2 birds with 1 stone thanks to several SUV-derived cues on the C3. And then there's the fact that it's a small car from Citroen, a brand India has seen very little of. Design and styling are always subjective topics, and while the C3's styling may divide opinion, there's no doubting the fact that in a parking lot, you won't mistake the C3 for anything else. To say the C3 looks like a shrunken C5 Aircross wouldn't be overstating it, and that's a good thing. In terms of dimensions, the C3 is closer to the likes of the Maruti Suzuki Swift and Hyundai i20, but is taller than both those cars and has a longer wheelbase than most B-segment hatches and even some compact SUVs. The face of the C3 grabs attention with the signature double chevron logo stretching into the slim LED daytime running lights, which are separated from the main headlight housing, and the 4 skid plate adds some muscle to its appearance. In profile, the C3 looks like the no-nonsense, high-riding hatchback it is, with no prominent design flourishes to speak of, and 15-inch steel wheels that look a tad small. At the back too, the C3 keeps things simple, with large taillights, but there's no getting away from how basic the C3 looks on the whole, and things like the exposed keyhole and flap-type door handles only exacerbate this feeling. To my eyes, the C3 is typically Citroen and decidedly different from anything else in this segment. That said, it isn't exactly a design marvel by any stretch of imagination, and its simplicity extends to the interior. The interior of the C3 may come as a revelation to some, but not in the way that you might expect. Once you get inside the car, you will realize that it is pretty spacious for a vehicle of its size, and Citroen has tried to liven things up by adding this orange dash insert, which brightens up the cabin. Of course, this is only available on select variants. There are plenty of hard plastics all across the cabin, but they are put together pretty well, so there is a solid feeling to the C3 even on the inside. However, the most interesting thing is how simple the C3 is on the inside, and that's because Citroen has chosen to skip a lot of features which may surprise a lot of you. For starters, there is no automatic climate control, even on the top spec model, so manual air conditioning is the best you get. Instead of powered adjustments, you have to use stalks to adjust the wing mirrors. All seats have integrated headrests. The steering wheel only adjusts for height and not reach. There's no wireless phone charging and no connected car features. There's a digital display in place of instruments. It lacks a tachometer and, while legible enough, is just inexplicably small. The exposed pull-type bonnet release lever is the kind you probably haven't seen in a while. The rear power window switches are located behind the handbrake. There are no rear AC vents, and there are no alloys, no sunroof, no rear wiper, no reverse camera, and not even a day-night rear view mirror. Even safety equipment is only basic, with 2 airbags, anti-lock braking, rear parking sensors on all variants, the bare minimum necessitated by regulations. Compared to some of the newer cars it will go up against, the C3 is probably a bit too light on equipment for its own good. However, everything that is present on the C3 works pretty well. The 10-inch touchscreen on the top spec variant is super responsive, smooth and intuitive to use, and also features wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. The manual seat height adjust enables a commanding driving position, giving the driver a clear view of the outer limits of the car. The air conditioning system is powerful and cools the cabin impressively well. There are plenty of storage spaces carved into the car, so you can store odds and ends. The boot can gobble up a good deal of luggage, and there's lots of space on offer for nearly every passenger. Legroom, knee room and headroom even at the back will be sufficient for most adults, and the seats themselves are pretty comfortable in typical Citroen fashion. A third passenger at the rear though will be a squeeze because of the limited width, and they will also be greatly inconvenienced by the prominent transmission tunnel that eats into precious foot space, forcing a passenger to sit with their feet on either side of the tunnel, which will surely be uncomfortable on anything more than a short drive. The C3 then is a pretty comfortable 4-seater that's either shockingly or refreshingly light on kit depending on how you view things. But if you're left unimpressed by the C3's relatively short features list, all you need to do is get into the driver's seat and hit the road. Citroen says it focused on perfecting the mechanical package, and it really shows in the way the C3 behaves on the road. There are two 1.2-litre petrol engine options to choose from, an 82 horsepower naturally aspirated version and a 110 horsepower turbocharged version. And to the surprise of many, both engines are pretty impressive. The turbo has more torque than most other turbo petrols of its size, and with the C3 turbo weighing in at just a little over a ton, this engine enables rapid acceleration with heaps of low-end torque. And Citroen says this version will do 0 to 100 km an hour in 10 seconds flat. The naturally aspirated model, while down on power, is still pretty punchy and is at ease when driven at both city as well as highway speeds, displaying admirable stability. Certified fuel efficiency for both models is close to 20 km per litre, which means they're also sensible. The oddly shaped gear knob dampens the fun a little bit, but the shifts on both gearboxes are fairly crisp, and the C3 remains reasonably flat even through the corners. In true Citroen style, the C3's party piece is its impeccable ride quality. It just flattens everything in its path, be it an annoyingly large speed breaker or an impossibly large pothole, gliding over them all and passing precious little in terms of movement into the cabin. Even over smooth stretches at high speed, things remain remarkably level on the inside, and it almost feels like you're seated in a bigger car. Given the limited time I had with the car at the media drive, it's best to reserve judgment on the powertrains and their strengths and weaknesses for another time. What's clear though is that Citroen has prioritized a superior driving experience over other things, and the C3 will be a great car both to drive as well as be driven in. The C3 in some ways reminds me of the Renault Kwid because it adopts roughly the same formula by choosing to sacrifice creature comforts and attention-grabbing features in favor of a well-rounded mechanical package that's also accessible for the masses. However, there's one major difference. The Kwid was after the most basic car in India, the Maruti Suzuki Alto. The C3, meanwhile, is being pitched as a potential rival to some established and far better equipped hatchbacks and compact SUVs. What doesn't help is Citroen making it clear that it's not out to chase Maruti or Hyundai level sales volume, with company officials suggesting the C3's price will be attractive but not aggressive, as Citroen, which doesn't consider itself a low-cost brand, wants to focus on profitability instead of getting into a price war. The French carmaker, with its limited sales network, says it doesn't want to put too much on its plate, which is also the reason cited for the absence of an automatic transmission option. Further complicating matters is the positioning of the C3 itself. It's not exactly a hatchback, but it's also not a compact SUV. And for a car that its maker wants to position as a premium offering, it is just far too under-equipped.
In summary, the Citroen C3 is a slightly complex proposition. You see, it's a hatchback, but it has the overtones of an SUV. It's almost like a bridge to a compact SUV. It has got plenty going for it. It's spacious, it's super comfortable on the move, it's great to drive, and of course, it comes with the Citroen badge. But there are a number of vital omissions in terms of features. Citroen says that this will compete against the likes of premium hatches such as the Tata Altroz, the Maruti Suzuki Baleno, and some entry-level compact SUVs such as the Renault Kiger and the Nissan Magnite. We understand that Citroen is keen to price the C3 somewhere between Rs 6 to 8 lakh, and that price point could prove to be slightly confusing for those who are keen on buying something that's a little bit like an SUV but provides the practicality of a hatchback. Despite its unique approach, the C3 is simple yet fulfilling in its own way. However, to appeal to the Indian buyer, it will also need to be priced sensibly.